Let's be honest. When you think of Native American history, your brain probably goes straight to eagle feathers, buffalo hunts, sacred songs, and spiritual wisdom passed down through generations. But today, we're asking the one question your history teacher definitely skipped. What did Native Americans use to wipe their butts? Yup, not bows and arrows, not medicine wheels. We're talking about post-poop protocol in a world with no toilet paper, no wet wipes, not even a basic roll of two-ply. And the scenarios become even crazier, so watch until the end to find out. Now let's just imagine. It's the year 1400. You're deep in the woods. You just finished a massive meal of corn and berries. Nature calls. But guess what? No bathroom, no plumbing, just you in the wild. What do you grab? A leaf? A rock? A squirrel? Kidding. Hopefully. If you've ever been camping and panicked when the toilet paper ran out, this one's for you. Let's dive in. Native American tribes didn't have bathroom stalls, toilet seats, or anything close to a "do not flush wipe" sign. But here's the thing. They actually didn't need it. Their entire lifestyle flowed with nature. Trees, rivers, smooth stones, leaves, snow, if it came to that. It was all part of the daily routine. And guess what? They made it work. Many tribes were nomadic or moved seasonally, following the rhythm of the land. So building some fancy wooden outhouse just to leave it behind a month later? Nah, they didn't waste time on things that didn't serve the bigger picture. Instead, they had natural spots, well away from camp, where they handled their business with a lot more wisdom than you might think. And no, these guys weren't dirty. That's a big myth. Just because they weren't spraying lavender air freshener or flushing doesn't mean they didn't care. Cleanliness mattered, but so did respect for the land, for their bodies, and for the people around them. You don't defile the same earth that feeds you. You don't pollute the river that gives you life. They didn't have a word for eco-friendly because their whole existence was eco-friendly. Think about it. No sewer systems, but no sewer backups either. No toilet paper, but no clogged toilets. They weren't living in filth. They were living in flow. And in a weird way, their poop game might have been more respectful and sustainable than ours is today. So before we get too smug with our scented candles and flushable wipes, maybe we should take notes, because back then, Mother Nature wasn't just a provider, she also cleaned up after you. But how exactly did she do that? Let's talk about the natural tools used. Because just like you might have your favorite brand of toilet paper, different native tribes had their own go-to wiping materials. Let's start in the woodlands. Say, Iroquois, Shawnee, and other tribes surrounded by lush forests. These people had access to soft leaves, tree bark, the smoother kind, and believe it or not, stones. Not just any rocks though, smooth stones, nature's original bidet. Some tribes even use small scraps of animal fur when available because they're soft, reusable, and warm in winter. Definitely beats using the back of your hand, right? Now, out on the Great Plains where there weren't many trees and the winters were seriously cold, people had to get smart. Most of the year, they used dried grass to wipe. Simple, easy, and it did the job. But when winter rolled in, that's when things got wild. They used snow. Yup, actual snow. It was clean, sure, but freezing. Imagine reaching for something soft and warm, and instead grabbing a handful of ice for your behind. Not fun. If you've ever sat on a freezing toilet seat in the middle of January, you kinda know the feeling. But now imagine wiping with that cold. Brutal. Moving southwest, the desert lands of the Hopi, Navajo, and others. Trees were out of the question, and leaves? Forget it. But corn? Corn was everywhere. Once the kernels were eaten, the cobs were smooth, sturdy, and perfectly wipe-sized. Corn cobs, the ancient Charmin. Some desert plants like yucca were used too. But use it wrong and you'd wish you hadn't. And let's not forget the Pacific Northwest, home to coastal tribes surrounded by forests and water. These people had the luxury of moss, and I tell you, that thing was soft, absorbent, and biodegradable. If moss wasn't around, there was seaweed or even shells. Shells sound fancy until you realize one wrong move and your insides may just come out of your poop hole. So no matter where they lived, Native Americans made use of what the land offered. They weren't scrambling for toilet paper during a pandemic. They were wiping sustainably before it was cool. Sure, some methods might make you cringe today, but they were smart, adaptable, and always in sync with their environment. Let's be real, we're the weird ones. We kill trees for scented rolls while they use snow, moss, and corn with confidence. Respect. But here's where things take a turn you probably didn't see coming. For many Native American tribes, hygiene wasn't just about getting clean. It was spiritual. Seriously, it wasn't just wipe and walk away. There was real meaning behind how they cleaned themselves. Washing hands, rinsing off in rivers, even burning herbs like sage were all part of a bigger mindset. Clean body, clean spirit. It was about showing respect, not just to yourself, but to the land, the water, and the people around you. You weren't just dumping waste and moving on. You were returning something to the earth. And that came with responsibility. No one wanted to mess up the same river they use for drinking or fishing. So even if they didn't have soap or toilets, they still had rules. Quiet spots away from camp, ritual washes, no polluting sacred spaces. And yeah, it might sound funny now, but imagine wiping your butt, then literally giving thanks to the earth for providing the moss, the water, or the snow. That's deep, like deeper than your toilet philosophy will ever go. To them, being clean meant being connected. It meant you were in balance, not just physically, but spiritually. Because if your body was messy, your energy probably was too. And nobody wanted to bring that kind of chaos into a ceremony or a meal. It wasn't about being fancy or civilized. It was about living with intention. Every action, even wiping, especially wiping, had meaning. Meanwhile, here we are spraying tropical air freshener and pretending the bathroom isn't a war zone. Different times? But maybe they were onto something. Now let's talk about the logistics, like where did people actually go? Because even back then, nobody wanted someone doing their business right next to the cooking fire. Most native tribes had a system. It wasn't everyone go wherever you want. There was structure. In many communities, men and women had different spots to relieve themselves. Total separation. It wasn't awkward, it was just respectful. You didn't need a sign that said ladies only. Everyone already knew the deal. Privacy wasn't some huge production. There weren't bathroom doors with fancy locks or little chalkboards that said occupied. But people gave each other space. No one was creeping around trying to catch somebody mid-squat. It was natural, and they treated it that way. A lot of tribes had what you might call poo zones, little areas outside of the main camp, sometimes near trees, sometimes behind a rock or ridge, far enough so smells didn't drift into the sleeping area. Smart, right? No plumbing, but somehow less gross than half the gas station bathrooms you've seen. In some cultures, like parts of the Middle East, India, and Africa, using your left hand to eat or greet someone is a huge no-no. Why? Because traditionally, that was the butt hand, the one used for cleaning after a bathroom trip. Left was for wiping, right was for everything else. Simple, but effective. Now, when it comes to Native American traditions, there's no clear proof they followed this exact rule across the board. No ancient sign that said, "Don't high-five me with that hand." But still, many tribes had their own sense of what was clean and what wasn't, especially around rituals, food, and community spaces. Some traditions involved washing before ceremonies, or even symbolic hand gestures that were done with the right hand only. You didn't just show up to a feast with grubby fingers and start digging in. People noticed. Clean hands meant respect, and dirty hands? Yeah, that could mess with the vibe. So while we don't have a universal don't use your left hand rule from Native culture, there was definitely a strong awareness of what was sanitary and what wasn't. You cleaned yourself before you prepared food. You didn't bring bad energy or bad smells into sacred spaces. Today we've got hand sanitizer in every pocket, yet people still walk out of public bathrooms like nothing happened. Back then, they didn't need signs. They had community sense. And honestly, that might be cleaner than most of what we've got now. Sometimes I sit and realize that they were much greener than we are today. Like, think about it. No toilet paper rolls stacked in the bathroom, no flushable wipes clogging up pipes, no plastic packaging, no air freshener sprays with names like Alpine Mist that just smell like lies. Native Americans were out there, wiping with leaves, moss, corn cobs, and walking off like they owned the earth, because, in a way, they kind of did. Their whole system was zero waste before that was even a thing. Everything they used came from the land and went right back to it. Wipe with a rock? Toss it. It becomes part of the earth again. Wipe with moss? Same deal. They didn't leave behind mountains of bathroom trash or destroy forests just to feel extra soft. Meanwhile, we're over here cutting down trees, just to flush them.
And the irony? We call them primitive, but let's be real, who's more advanced? The people wiping with natural materials and keeping rivers clean, or the people clogging toilets with ultra-luxury triple ply and wondering why the planet's mad? So yeah, they were wiping with leaves and living like kings. But not all leaves are created equal. When you're out in the wild, dropping your pants under a tree, you better know your plants, or your behind's about to enter a world of pain. This brings us to a harsh truth about nature. Sometimes it fights back. See, back then, wiping wasn't just a grab the nearest leaf and go situation. Nope, it was a skill, a survival skill. Because if you picked the wrong leaf, say poison ivy, big congratulations to you, your butt now itches like it's hosting a mosquito rave. And good luck sleeping through that. Let's talk about the usual suspects. First, poison ivy, the silent assassin of the woods. It looks innocent, maybe even soft and flexible, until the rash kicks in and your cheeks feel like they're being punished by nature herself. Then there's stinging nettle. Oh boy. One wipe with that and it's not just itching, it's burning like you sat on a campfire made of regret. Tiny hairs on the plant inject histamines into your skin, and suddenly you're dancing around like someone lit a fire under you because technically they kinda did. And if you were anywhere near the coast, shells were an option. But one wrong swipe with a cracked edge and boom, now you've got a scratch in a place no scratch should ever be. You don't want your wiping tool to double as a weapon, trust me. These weren't rare horror stories either. This stuff happened. People learn the hard way. If you were new to a forest, someone in the tribe would probably pull you aside like, hey, don't use that one unless you want your butt to swell up like a drum. That was the real cultural education. And the worst part? You couldn't exactly run to CVS for ointment. You just had to sit with your mistakes. Literally. Now picture this. You wipe with the wrong leaf, wake up the next morning, and it feels like your butt lost a fight with bees. Swollen, itchy, inflamed. No aloe, no cream, just shame and regret. So the lesson? Nature gives, but she also slaps. Wiping wild wasn't random. It was based on knowledge. Passed down, observed, learned the hard way. People knew what was safe, what to avoid, and how to read the land. It wasn't about being tough. It was about being smart. Meanwhile, today we've got instructions on shampoo bottles and people still mess it up. Back then, if you didn't know your leaves, your butt paid the price. But plants weren't the only thing out there waiting to humble you. Let's talk about animals. When you squat in the wild, you're not alone. You're entering their territory, and some creatures are not cool with that. Then there were insects. Ants, mosquitoes, wasps, all ready to turn your cheeks into an all-you-can-bite buffet. Imagine wiping, standing up, and realizing your backside is under attack. You're hopping around, slapping the air, trying to swat bugs with your pants still down. That's not a private moment anymore. That's a tribal event. And don't forget curious raccoons or foxes. If you left anything behind, say food, clothing, or evidence, they might come sniffing around. Imagine trying to go in peace while a raccoon watches you like it's judging your technique. So yeah, going number 2 in the wild wasn't just about finding a soft leaf. It was a full-on mission. You needed plant knowledge, animal awareness, and a little bit of luck. Because out there, one wrong move and your relaxing bathroom break could turn into a nature documentary gone wrong. All right, we've covered a lot today. Leaves, snow, snakes, itchy mistakes, and now it's time for the real question. If you had to choose, what's your weapon of choice? Be honest. Are you grabbing a corn cob and hoping for the best? Going with a smooth rock, shalmele, trusting some nice soft moss? Or are you taking the wild route with snow and just bracing for the cold? Drop your answer in the comments. And don't worry, nobody's judging. We're all friends here, just trying to survive history, one wipe at a time. And if this video made you laugh, made you gag, or made you appreciate that roll of toilet paper in your bathroom right now, go ahead and like it. Share it with someone who thinks they could survive in the wild. So yeah, wiping was one thing. But now picture this. It's the middle of the night, dead quiet. You're half asleep under a buffalo hide, and suddenly, your stomach starts rumbling. You try to ignore it. You roll over, you pretend it's nothing, but no, your body is calling, and it ain't gonna wait till sunrise. Welcome to the midnight struggle. Now remember, there were no flashlights, no bathroom light switches, not even a candle unless you wanted to risk setting the teepee on fire. Just pitch black. Maybe a little moonlight if you're lucky. and you trying to figure out where to drop it without stepping in someone else's from earlier that day. Some folks would use the glow of a dying fire to guide them. You'd see people creeping out of the camp like guilty raccoons, holding a stick with a burning ember at the end just to see a few feet ahead. That's not a relaxing bathroom stroll. That's survival. You'd pick a spot you think was far enough from camp and just hope it wasn't somebody's sacred sitting log, or worse, somebody's sleeping dog. There are stories of people tripping over tree roots, falling into bushes, peeing on their own foot because they aimed in the dark and hit a rock instead. And you already know some poor soul sat right on a cactus thinking it was a patch of grass. That's a mistake you only make once. And let's not act like everyone was brave. Some folks were just like us, lying there wide-eyed, hearing rustling in the dark, thinking, nope. You ever been so tired you consider just holding it till sunrise? Yeah, they had those nights too. That inner war of stomach versus fear? Classic. Even when they went out, it wasn't exactly peaceful. The cold air smacked you the second you left your blanket. The woods sounded different at night. Every cricket chirp felt like a warning. Every twig snap sounded like a bear about to judge your squatting form. So yeah, midnight bathroom runs weren't just inconvenient, they were a full adventure. No one talks about this in history class, but this was part of daily life. A routine that involved guts, timing, and a little bit of luck. And honestly, it makes you appreciate modern plumbing on a whole new level. That quick trip to the toilet at 3 a.m. with your phone flashlight? Luxury. Back then, you were tiptoeing into darkness with your butt hanging out, hoping you didn't become part of the food chain. So the next time you groan about getting up to pee in the night, just be grateful you're not out in the woods, barefoot, freezing, and negotiating with a possum for squat space.